Hey guys, good morning. I'm gonna pour myself some water and we'll get going. Welcome to our Fantasia Music Evolved panel, Reimagining Fantasia, an interactive adventure in color, sound, and motion, AKA the longest subtitle we could possibly come up with for a panel about Fantasia prototypes and process. We're gonna be talking about a new game that we're making for Disney called Fantasia Music Evolved. Hopefully, have any of you stopped by the booth or seen it on videos or anything, YouTube? Yes? Good. The film is inspired by the 1940 film, oh, sorry, the game is inspired by the 1940s film. Who has seen the film here at some point in their life? Yes? I assume the rest of you who didn't put your hand up are too busy street passing right now. So it's based off of that, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we went from that sort of classic heritage. You're going to street pass on stage next to me while we're playing. Check out the sweet DS. It's inspired by that film. We're going to talk about how we went from that film and the Disney properties that made it up to where we are today and the game you're going to see a quick demo of. But first and foremost, let me introduce our panelists. I'm John. I work at Harmonix. I'm the Director of Communications and Brand Management, so in terms of length of title, I'm #1 on this list, which is great. But I'm simply the moderator for these very talented gentlemen to my right, your left. We have Matt Bach, who's our Creative Director. Jonathan Mintz, lead designer of all things good gameplay. And of course, Chris Nichols with 2 L's at the end, our executive producer at Disney, coming straight from Glendale. Yes, no, clap for Chris. That was really suspenseful, like no one was gonna clap for Chris. It was gonna ruin the panel.
That's because I'm the man.
You are, yeah, you're the man keeping us down. No, Chris is actually keeping us on track, which is great. So we're gonna show you some never before seen content. We want to make sure you guys stick around. I know there's a lot of stuff going on at PAX. You all got hats now. This is a terrifying sea of Sorcerer's baseball hats in a way that makes me really happy. Especially people who are in cosplay and wearing hats. It's just the best. So before diving all the way into the past, we're going to actually show you how we went from conception of the game all the way to what we have to show you as a real title that we're going to be shipping in 2014. But we're going to give you a chance to see the game in action. So we're going to show you a quick demo. Very sped through demo to get through it in real time of the Shoal, which is one of our levels. This is what it looks like when it's all crazy and lit up at the end. It is our under the sea level of the game. To give you some quick context as Annette boots in, you play this game as the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Yen Sid, Master Sorcerer, wearer and owner of the full version of the hat that you're all wearing right now. He's invited you into the world of Fantasia. You are in his workshop. You're filling the shoes of Mickey Mouse, who's gone on to do other things, buying Star Wars and other stuff that he does on a daily basis. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to walk into the workshop, learn about music and magic, and control these interactive environments called the realms of Fantasia. So your job as the apprentice is to bring them to life, to watch these next-gen loading screens, and to then go into the universe. And we'll tell you a little bit about the gameplay as it loads up. But there's double digits of these worlds that you'll be exploring. And this is the Shoal. It's one of the first ones in the game. Check it out. So Annette is over there, by the way. Hey, Annette. What's up? Annette's our sort of chief sorcerer apprentice, the funky sorceress herself. So she's standing in front of a Kinect camera. The game is a motion game. It's a game that uses either the Xbox One camera or the Kinect for Xbox 360 camera. And she's walking from side to side. You can see that we're sort of parallaxing this panoramic view of the world around her, so her perspective of the world becomes what we see on screen. It solves the traversal problem of a video game where you have to run in place in front of a motion camera. Here, you just step side to side, give you a lot more gameplay than you'd have. She raises her hand up. She summons what we call the Muse. The Muse is a 3-dimensional cursor that Yensid gives you in the workshop to inspire the world to come to life. And your task is to find musical interactions and instruments that you can play. The whole world is made of music and magic. That's what Fantasia is all about. So Annette's found our first interaction, a seahorse carousel, and they play a little melody. She can speed them up to the right tempo. Maybe she can do it. It pays off some of those little magical prisms, and that's the currency in each level. As you unlock things, you keep progress to that bar at the top there that's filling up with magic, and your job is to find enough magic that you can actually perform songs, and songs allow you to transform the world. Yensid wants you to bring the worlds to life, to invigorate the world of Fantasia with your magical energy. And you saw that was a fun little interaction, but we didn't change the world that much permanently, because the way you do that the best is by playing songs. So Annette's going to play a song for us right now. Is everyone cool if we play Bohemian Rhapsody? Yes? Awesome. She's going to zoom in like she's playing the world's biggest iPad in front of her, and we're going to play performance gameplay. So inside the narrative of the game, like this Yen Sid Sorcerer's Apprentice storyline, there are the realms of Fantasia, and inside the realms of Fantasia, those levels, there are songs of performance gameplay. And this is motion gameplay. It's obviously beat matched. It's sung to the music, but it's a lot different than what we've done before. It gives you a lot of control to both interpret the song the way you want and also to remix the song on the fly. You are welcome to sing along at certain parts of the song if you want. Obviously, it happens. But I should warn you, we're going to be remixing on the fly, so now we'll be adding a symphonic orchestration that the London Symphony Orchestra performed for us, as well as a heavy metal remix, all in real time. It's going to be crazy. She can use either hand to trace these gestures on the screen. She can play it like a dancer or like a conductor of an orchestra or like a sorcerer casting spells. I want to give you the chance to play it the way you want, almost like Dance Dance Revolution, where there are cues you have to do, but the way you interpret it and move your body is what makes it really special. So I'm going to show you in just a second. She'll get the first choice gesture where she'll be able to change the music in drastic ways. So let's turn that audio up and hear how much she can shift the audio with one swipe. She picks a different color mix than pink. I'm going to shut up now. Shh. Here it comes. So next I brought in the heavy metal bass from the green remix, along with the symphonic orchestra from the blue mix, and the original vocals and drums from the pink mix. So we're blending this arrangement in real time. The goal is to give Annette control over the music. She's not just playing along with the song, she's actually playing with the song itself. That's how much power Mickey had on the cliff when he was conducting the heavens and the seas. He was bringing the music to life like a conductor at the foot of an orchestra. And Harmonix has often made games that have been about music simulation, where you just play along with the track, but we're really trying to make a game about music creation, giving you the power. She's still been remixing it, but this isn't all the power we have. We're actually going to give Annette control over the music itself and what we call music manipulators. So musical manipulator is going to come up in a second. It's called the FX. The Sound Sketcher. No, Sound Sketcher's second. It's the FX Sculptor. I've never blanked on that ever before in a demo. So inside this prism, there's musical magical energy. If Annette can get every side of the prism to light up, she'll get access to what we call the effects sculptor. It'll allow her to stretch the guitar solo in real time, adding wah-wah effects side to side and twisting it to add delay. And later she'll get a sound sketcher, which will allow her to draw a guitar solo later in the song. So let's hear what it sounds like when she changes the music in Fantasia. Crank that. Turn it up. Galileo Figaro, yeah. Yes, so heavy metal. So she's creating a guitar solo in real time on screen, and we're playing it back as a loop to her. And this will actually play over the next section of the song. It's called the Sound Sketcher. Take us home, Annette. Do it. Nice job, Annette. Well played. Give her a hand. Oh no, keep that gameplay up. Go back. Yeah, there it is. So now that Annette's poured all that energy into the song, that energy floods back in the world and forms what we call a transformation key. Now I said that when you played the music, you remixed it, controlled it, you'll actually be able to change the world, and that's Yen Sid's assignment to you, to inspire the world to come to life. So if Annette reaches out and grabs that transformation key and puts her muse in it and swipes it, she'll change that coral reef into a turtle with a coral reef on his back floating about. He brings more light in the scene. These fish are swimming about now. He brings in the Bohemian Rhapsody piano line, which is really kind of softly. In case you couldn't hear it, I'm going to sing it for you in my beautiful voice. But the turtle's not just a set piece, it's actually a playable instrument. So if you haven't seen this demo ever before, we're going to play the jazz clams, which is the best part of the game. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of great stuff in the game, but it's pretty awesome. So these are more complicated instruments we've embedded inside of Fantasia. So every musical mollusk on the back of this turtle is actually a different piece of a jazz drum set. So as we trace over it with the muse, we learn each part of the instrument. And then the goal here is we teach Annette one by one through fun gameplay, and then we give her the chance to control and create. So those are kick drums. And now we give her in this record and play stage. She can raise her hand up and record a little jazz drum solo. Because video games. She can also get really detailed, just play ride cymbal, make it cool 50s jazz. That's a good one, it's funky. Or she can go crazy like most people do and try to play all the drums at once, because that's really more fun to get a lot of cacophonous drums. It's pretty good. Now if Annette likes what she hears, she good? She can zoom back out in the world, and those jazz clams will follow her playing her drum solo inside the world. So they hang out downstage there, and then every once in a while they'll play her fill, so it becomes not only a document of what you found and not found as you progress through the level, but also what you've created. She can go back at any time and re-record her jazz drum solo. There's a lot of other secrets. There's a crazy crab who has castanet claws who plays zydeco music. There's some fish that make melodies. It gets really nuts by the end. So that's the end of the demo, because we want to show you all these other demos we also have, but that's the end of the gameplay demo for the actual game we're making. There's Annette standing on the podium. Nice job, Annette. Great, good demo, Annette. Take a seat. You can see here on the screen the fully excited world of the shoal with all the interactions turned on. There's that crab I was speaking about on the right side of the screen, clicking his claws. It gets pretty nuts. So the game's full of those interactions. There's multiple songs per level, lots of things to find. There's probably 5 or 6 more crazy things to find inside that level alone. So each level can be between 35 and an hour of gameplay, depending on how much you want to go and explore, which is really fun, and there's double digits of those in the world. So that's the shoal, that's the demo, but it was not a straight shot getting here. No? We did not go straight from what's the idea to making that demo. We did a lot of things along the way. But let's talk a little bit more about what is happening in the demo you saw. So Matt and Jonathan can talk a little about this. We want to make sure you're interacting with music in meaningful ways, right?
Yeah.
Take over. Now you guys talk about video games. So the current vision of the game design from what you just saw, like what are you trying to hope people get out of playing that level and experiencing it for themselves?
So a lot of what you saw was like, we had that spirit of Annette performing, conducting the song, but we want to see that magic come out into the world. We want the player to be able to have created something, add that into the world, and bring that to life with all the Disney magic that we were inspired by from the original. So that's why we took the sound of Bohemian Rhapsody, we put it into clams, and we want to give the player the sense of just having made that. Like, what you're rewarded for in this game is opening up musical potential and having created something. And that's something that we've sort of like gravitated towards as a team.
We've taken a lot of the cues from the original film of just syncing up very specific character-based animations to specific sounds. Then we're giving the player control over those things. So there's an aspect of it that is definitively music creation, but then you're also able to trigger the artistic animations and characters that we're creating as well. So there's a visual aspect to your expression in the spaces as well. And as you are unlocking more and more musical potential in each one of the realms of Fantasia, you're creating your own sort of remix of that realm. You're bringing in all the sounds from the different songs that are in there, those become part of it, and then you're using the jazz clams, the singing fish, and so the sound of any realm is dependent on how much you've played any of those songs, and then what you've done with the interactions that you've created as a result of bringing that musical magic into the realms. We're trying to think about a world that's literally made at the atomic level of music, and what that would be like.
And this is some of the not even concept art, but some of like the rough sketches of, oh, we're gonna assign different clams to be different drums in a drum set, or these fish will burp and will sing a note, and these fish will blow up because they're pufferfish and sing slow, kind of whole tone notes. And that's some original concept art that we've never shown before. I don't know who drew these, but they're pretty awesome. Maybe Gigi. So we wanted to talk back about how we got to where we were. This is Yensid, the sort of model in the game, looking awesome. We actually started this a long time ago. So Chris and I were in the first meeting about this game in March of...
It was originally supposed to be day and date with the original film. This was 1940.
Yep. We started pre-production in 1937.
But games sometimes get delayed.
Fresh off of Snow White, we were like, we're going to make this game for theaters. All that Snow White, Seven Dwarfs money. So Chris, we went back and we sat in a room and talked about making a game. Do you remember that meeting?
I do.
It was so long ago, so many scars since then. But
March 2010.
March 2010. That's how long this game has been kicking around.
last day of GDC, I think we were all hungover. And,
yep.
And Harmonix had accepted a meeting because for years I'd been trying to convince Disney to make a Fantasia game, and all I could say was, you wave your hands like this and music happens. And they said...
It's not untrue.
It's not untrue. And they said, what, you mean conduct a hero? I was like, no, not really conduct a hero,
But sort of, yeah. But not really.
The short feedback from my marketing friends was, if you can get Harmonix to sign up for it, then we'll believe you. So that became the mission.
But you actually wouldn't tell us what the meeting was for.
No, because you.
So we thought we were making Miley Cyrus rock bands.
Now you stick my other line. All my lines.
Jonas Band of Brothers.
Yeah, Jonas Band of Brothers, the war fighting game. We're going to start a white label studio called Maternity Ward, which makes shooters for kids and families.
It's a good place to be. Just to be clear, though, if we had chosen Miley Cyrus dance game, it would have been current right now.
Yeah, no, it'd be huge.
Seriously.
We'd be twerking.
I missed that one.
Feety pajamas.
Topical
so here
jokes.
we are with Fantasia instead. So it was, the sun was coming through the open shades in this high-rise hotel, and they were really, why are we here? What do you want to talk to us about? And I rambled a lot, because I do. And got to the point where I said, actually, we want to make Fantasia. And literally the room went quiet.
Yeah, we stopped squinting and scowling at Chris, and we're like, oh, that's a really good idea. We should probably do that. And then we went back to deliver in the studio, and they were like, that sounds awesome. And then I was like, so what do you guys want to do? And they were like, uh-oh. And we were like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this game?
Yeah, so I think I came over for a meeting, and I said, you wave your hands around like this, and you make this.
Yeah, that was that kind of executive production that Chris does. He comes to meetings and goes, just do this, and then video games.
That's what the design document looks like. That's what the design document looks like.
Yeah, the design document's just like GIF.
Make music, profit.
An animated GIF of Chris doing that.
Actually, I think the fun thing was from the initial meetings when we said, the simple statement where we want to change music games from something that you just play along to. And we want to create the first music game where the player has choices, where they make the music, where they're involved in the creative agency of the experience, which is a ridiculously simple thing to say. And 3 years later, I can tell you it's a ridiculously hard thing to do.
But we're making progress.
But we are making
It's going to be great. So in terms of the creative team at Harmonix, like the first thing we really did was we went to the archive. Because you also said you didn't want it to be a movie port. It was not going to be the film modeled in 3D and then with some gameplay over it. We wanted to really have it be an extension of what the heart of Fantasia was supposed to be.
I did think of a first-person shooter with the dancing.
It would have been great. First-person dance shooter.
There was a desire to not only carry on Walt's vision, but also bring Fantasia into a contemporary interactive setting.
We were working with a property that was old and hadn't really been touched in any substantial way for quite a long time. We were fortunate. I mean, John always describes this army of typewriting fools that follow Walt Disney around. But the actual fact is that there were professional stenographers who notated every story meeting of the film that happened over about 2.5 years. So we were able to sit in the archives and pull out typewritten transcripts of every meeting. And what was fascinating for us was not just how they solved the creative problems of the film as they put it together, but how we were able to tease out what it was they were shooting for. Yeah. And really sort of bring the principles of the film to the fore, and that's what we decided to latch on to when we made the game.
Yeah, and these are actually some scans of quotes from the original transcript, as well as some concept art from the original workbooks of the team that was working on the film. These were all approved by their vault and heritage team at Disney that I don't think some of these have ever really been seen before. So yeah, that's cool.
It's an incredibly intense experience to be going to the Disney archives and seeing these folios and mimeographed things from 1935.
Can we do a quick pop quiz?
Yeah, sure.
We went to an ARL, which is the Animation Research Library, which stores all of the old story sort of pictures and the storyboards and concept pieces of Disney films. Can anybody guess how many pieces of art are in that deposit?
1 million pieces.
1 million? 1 million?
It's Price is Right rules.
10, yes, 10. Good second guess.
Yeah, we burn everything. There's 10 that were kept.
We don't have time in the script for a contest, Chris. Tell them what the answer is.
You could win a hat. You get the answer right. It's actually 60 million. 60
what?
Million
Snap. I did not expect that.
Which is pretty staggering.
And I think actually the quote that's on screen right now is one of my favorites, which is Walt Disney just saying, the whole purpose of the film is that we are picturing music. We are making music sort of corporeal. It's not a background to the picture. It's really, we are doing the score for the good music it represents. There's a ton of these images. And so we went into pre-production, and we started thinking about making motion and music interactions. But it was really based off this idea that this was supposed to be a concert film that was always evolving from 1940 to modern day, and it wasn't commercially successful enough to have that happen. But Walt's vision was that it would be updated with new pieces would come online, they'd retire old pieces, and they would keep adding new music like an orchestra on tour. So if that had never stopped, what would this game look like if we'd added technology in the 50s and 60s, if we added CinemaScope and widescreen and IMAX and 3D animation and home entertainment systems, and if you added rock and roll in the 50s and 60s from jazz and classical in the 40s and punk and funk in the 70s and modern dance music today, how would that all blend together into what is Walt's Fantasia? And how do we make gameplay systems that work with all of that? Because that's a super broad amount of content. So we went into pre-production and we made some crazy things. Do you guys want to talk about what's up on screen right now?
There's a ridiculous variety of things that we explored, taking that really broad ambition that John just described and saying, well, what are we going to do with that? We want to give the player this physical experience of waving their hands around, like Chris said, really strong design vision that we can thank you for.
Visionary, that's me.
And we wanted to give the player control over the music. You can see things like that one in the upper left is kind of like a connecty version of Frequency, if you guys remember that, Harmonix classic.
Yes.
Trying to figure out what worked about that in a motion game space. There's more of a very literal conductor hero, reaching to turn on different sections of the orchestra. There's
Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Connect QuickTime event.
Yep.
That's right, yeah.
Just one long Connect QuickTime event over the Sorcerer's
Sorcerer beat agents going on there. And the team just went through this broad range of experiences trying to also take that sense of the original film where, as Walt was guiding his animators, they were all trying to capture each piece in a way that meant something, that captured something about the music, and that's why, Night on Bald Mountain is so different than Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is so different than Toccata, which is very abstract.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other things we looked at too, where we spent a lot of time, because we wanted to be creative with music, creating a lot of prototypes that were about sequencing music and almost like Ableton Live type plugins that we were creating. And that was, we really played a lot with this idea of how do you let someone who may not know music make intelligent choices, make something that sounds good, make something that sounds interesting and can sustain a lot of varied output. And one of the things I think we learned very early on was that we have to remind ourselves constantly that we're making a game and we're trying to entertain people and make it fun. And if people want to make music seriously, there are other avenues.
Yes.
But for us, we need to anchor it in something that is really engaging to play with.
When it wasn't always as hardcore about all the creativity and musical choice, there were a lot of different sort of fence posts along the way. The team was given, make a Fantasia music game other than make it music was not really the most specific, direction. So there were a lot of these planted flags along the way, and we have some prototypes we've shown you that we're going to show you that are different sort of log lines the team had trying to see if this stuff would work, because we're basically in unexplored territory. Yeah. Harmonix has left the safety of simulation behind and gone into the wilderness of like weird musical creativity.
And we weren't even sure if there was just one game in this game. Like, taking from the original property these different vignettes, there was a notion that, you know, maybe every single experience you have in Fantasia is completely unrelated to every other experience you've ever had, which, you know, would create tutorialization nightmares. But, you know, it was just something we wanted to investigate, to see, you know, what is the range of interactions that we can create that would, you know, offer people experiences with different types of music, different levels of control, or levels of storytelling, which I think is one of the places that we'll get to right after this.
Yes, of course. So one of the things one of the first places we went, and I think this is a truism, everyone's smiling when they see Bohemian Rhapsody come on the screen, is that music can offer an emotional experience, right? Music can drive and make you feel sad or happy or celebratory. And we thought gameplay designed around that idea of an emotional experience would be really cool. And then we learned some things about how that's totally true, and we can make really good gameplay about it, and also how it can be difficult to sustain for a long period of time. So we're going to show you a demo called Mood Lake. And this is actually one of the first pieces of gameplay we ever made for the game. Is what we sort of took to the Disney meeting to E3 of 2010, and initially greenlit the project into like pre-production. This is sort of a prototype that we made. So I'm going to click over here and click play. And I think we're going to talk over this a little bit. So to begin this level, you sort of conducted, and this is, again, not the final game. This is stuff, some of which we left behind for a bunch of reasons, but you sort of conducted these abstract shapes like a conductor hero to get access to these worlds. And the world we're going into, as we get this piece, is called Mood Lake. It's pretty crazy looking. So some of the basic ideas there, the idea of the cursor and the muse was a part of this.
Yeah, there's a number of successful concepts. I mean, there's the whole interaction with the environment and being musical as well as visual in our feedback. I think the two important things we found was that allowing the player to touch music and to change it very simply was really compelling, and that's something we should take on and build forward. And secondly, when you attach it to visual feedback, you can actually create control of very specific moods and responses in the player. We're still, to this day, trying to really understand how to harness that and build a long-term narrative, but those were probably the two most important things we learned from this particular prototype.
So the feel of this, as you explore it, is basically like it's a musical matrix in a way, and sort of like more ways than one. But the idea is that as you visit these parts of the world, you can change the music. You can go from sparse to dense, and then as you visit this spot, let it play.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And so you've gone from sort of this like major key, like positive vibe to this very like ominous vibe.
The fish turn into a little sea serpent that swims around. Lightning strikes in the background. And again, like all the playable parts are still playable. They change the tone and feel, and it does. You can really feel the emotional pull of something going from, oh, it's like happy springtime, to being like, oh, this is kind of dark and ominous. And now we've brought in more of the orchestra, made it a storm cloud in the background.
And density of the music, and now it's become dramatic. Everything is sort of like we've gotten this little kind of like pomp and circle. Well,
yeah. The other thing that we're seeing that we've taken on that's fun is just when you simply move your hand around and throw magic around, it can be really fun to do.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of games haven't really captured with emotion interface. That's something that we really like a lot.
And some of the ideas of stepping left to right and the parallaxing, I mean, some of the basic mechanics survived.
Well, even just the idea of, you know, unlocking the full musical potential of this world. Like, in order to progress to this next section, you had to see all of the different possibilities that you could create within that space.
So it's pretty great. And then you conduct your way back out of the demo, basically. And then we're back on the conductor's platform. So again, this was a very quick 3-month demo or so that we kind of banged together really quickly to show Disney the potential. And I think the potential was really demonstrated well. Yeah. But we also learned a lot about the general arc of how long you can sustain a purely emotional reaction. So that was a meeting where, you know, people teared up. It felt like the music was really, it was a, you know, a loudspeaker room. People were really immersed in the music like you were supposed to be in Fantasia.
Yeah, a room full of Disney executives feeling emotional. It was really a special experience.
Yeah, it was really special. But I think over time we learned a little bit that it's hard to sustain that from a gameplay perspective. It feels a little wandery. It's like, yes, changing the emotions of a scene is great, but it can start to feel a little bit like an interactive screensaver.
Well, it tends to have a larger emotional impact on the people who are watching it than the person who's playing it. Because they're undergoing this process of discovery, but it's almost that the experience is happening linearly to other people, and they're having the emotional reaction to the changes that are happening in the music and the visuals.
Yeah, that tension between exploration and linearity is something that comes up in our next prototype, as you see, where we go from one way to another.
So the next fence post that kind of got planted, and we tried and have, again, embraced parts of, but learned a lot from and left behind, and we left some stuff behind as well, was called Lovebirds. It was the next prototype we worked on. And the idea there was that music can tell a story. Something that's clearly true from Fantasia, and even to things like Peter and the Wolf. I mean, there's a history of music being used as a narratively driving action. Like, it's a thing that can actually propel you forward through a story. And we decided to explore that. Does anyone want to introduce that in any greater detail before we start showing the video?
So after we sort of explored that free-form, like, emotional playground of Mood Lake, we started saying, like, okay, what sort of games can give us a guiding post for the structure of this experience? So we started looking at adventure games, trying to figure out how to capture that musicality with the framework of a story that would make that something that the player would be able to explore and enjoy with a little bit more structure than just sort of like the wandering about of the Mood Lake demo. Yeah,
so we're going to play a demo for you now that we called Lovebirds. Oh, no, we're not. Let me try that again. I clicked the wrong button. Yeah. So this is a slightly more realized 3D world. We're obviously a couple more months into development here.
This is when we brought in the 3D version of the Muse for the first time to give the player an even better sense of physicality and presence in the world.
And we started playing with the idea of character and characters having themes.
Yes.
This is our bluebird. He whistles. Clarinet bird. Flute, I'm sorry, flute bird.
So kind of the narrative arc of this is that you meet this bird, it's sort of this sad song, trying to capture the feeling of loneliness, and the idea is that each character, each animal, each plant in this world has a different instrument. So in this moment, you're taking the bird song and the flowers are listening to it, and through your motion, you sort of wake up the flowers. The flowers are the strings, and so they take the bird's melody and they're carrying it down the river. And you pass it over to this lily pad fairy.
There's a couple of themes that are starting to come out here that are important later on. One is discovery and creating a world where there are things that the player is encouraged to explore and find their own solutions to. And the second is how musicality flows through the experience and touches different parts of the world as you go through it.
Now this was some purely expressive gameplay that kind of links these two worlds. So this lily pad drifts through this tunnel between worlds, carrying the song of the bluebird in a slightly more orchestrated version. And there's this sort of freestyle dance where you were able actually painting these flowers on the side of this tunnel as you go through them. And it gets a little psychedelic and trippy, because Fantasia, it's okay. Sitar and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we were changing the pitch of the song, we were changing the visuals on screen, changing the character animations to follow what you were doing. And as she comes out the other side, which I think happens right now. I haven't seen this demo in a little bit of time. 2 years ago, jeez. She comes out the other side, we're back to it being a little less trippy. It's back to, you see this red bird hopping, hearing the blue melody, and following it along. Harmonize together. Solo.
The red bird is in the song, the other bird down the river.
So there's a little bit, they're called lovebirds, this idea of wanting to connect the two birds together. They've been separated, and if we can actually connect those two melodies over this sort of now, starting to slightly like ramp up jazzy orchestration.
Carried by the breeze.
If anyone can name the Pixar reference, that extra hat.
Shh. It's totally original. What are you talking about? So the birds hear each other's melodies, and we've jumped through some of the other interactions to get to this part of the story. It's obviously a longer level.
So now they become aware of each other for the first time. Their songs are beginning to complement.
And they call and response, but they also directly harmonize with each other, which is really nice.
They're still a little bit shy. The player has one final roll and sort of bringing the scene to life.
Yenta, matchmake that stuff. So you get these flowers to spin up, and they throw all these particle effects, and these flowers that fall, and then the birds meet on this tree stump. Sort of. They're really happy. It's nice. It gets very epic at the end there for like those last 2 bars, just like an orchestra comes in.
Hang on, I think we all need to take a moment.
Yeah.
Just take a moment, guys. I got worked up a little bit.
Long time since we saw it.
So it works really well when we are talking over the story and telling you what the story is supposed to be, but there was a little bit of a challenge to like knowing intuitively what you should be doing all the time.
Well, every single branching, or it's not even a branching point, every single linear point you need to push this narrative forward introduced some new thing that you had to do with your body. And unlike a controller space or like a mouse and keyboard space, there's limitless things you might be able to do with your body at any point in time. So trying to figure out like, okay, I'm presented with this scene, there's gorgeous things in it. Which things do I need to touch? How do I need to touch them? What am I going to do with my body at this point in time? And meanwhile, these birds are just waiting to meet each other, and you're sitting there hanging out. Do I touch these flowers? Do I rub the flowers? Do I spin the flowers?
It's like the worst adventure game inventory puzzle because the inventory is anything you can physically do.
Touch everything with your face. Some of the story elements did survive, though. I mean,
we learned, like, really importantly that we could tell a story, should we want to, and actually we thought the other thing we learned was maybe we shouldn't do that.
Maybe we shouldn't.
Equally as important sometimes.
And so there's ideas of, I think the ideas of character and tone sort of survive. There's still characters in the game you'll find yourself affiliated with. You'll see some of them in the reveal we're doing this week. And there are obviously arcs and emotions, again, bringing that emotional theme from the first major pillar. But the idea of it being one linear story for every level, I felt like it would kind of limit the game a little bit, and also maybe make the player experience really confusing. Like, you might not know what to do some of the time.
Yeah, no, we got much more focused, I think, on creating compelling moments in time and relationships between moments, but not explicitly propelling you from one to the other.
We have a Disney princess who's lost up front. Here she comes. Come on. There you go. She's adorable. So go ahead.
So from that point,
transition.
Leading into the next demo that we did, we sort of looked at that and we said, hey, how can we capture some of the feeling and character of that world, but how can we open it up and let the player have more of a free-form experience so they're not constantly blocked by these puzzle points and challenges that sort of like pull them out of that space.
Bring back the fun into the video game of it all. We had sort of
go ahead.
Go
back to some of our roots, right? Like we'd gone off into this space that we thought was very evocative of the film. And we were asking ourselves a question, like, what does Harmonix bring that's really unique to this? Certainly we have amazing artists, amazing musicians who are creating these rich visual worlds, but we also have a great history of like beat match gameplay. And how does that fit into the universe of Fantasia?
So music can introduce challenges. This is the third demo we created. It's called Spirit Desert. And in this demo, we were trying to show, well, I mean, you can describe what we were trying to do. You guys were working on the game. What were you going for? And then I'll press play on the video.
It was capturing some of the spirit of Mood Lake, bringing that back and like having transformative moments within the scene, giving the player more control over the transformation of the whole world. That's sort of the previous slide that you'll see in the video. Like, if you guys remember the Meet the Soundtrack segment of the original film, we wanted to give the player physical control over that, and that kind of became their sorcerer's tool for opening up parts of the world, creating different musical manipulations.
So this is also the first time we brought in performance gameplay.
Yeah.
To be as strict, like as you saw, like as a standalone level where this is sort of an interactive hub world with, both toys and puzzles and sort of a lot of different things. What?
Before this, we actually had a couple of performance simulators.
Yeah.
Where
with the chopping ball.
Yeah, it wasn't connected to the adventure. It was a completely standalone experience. It was the first time we put it together.
So this is the musical control you were talking about, these rocks.
So the player has reached forth and they've grabbed the music that lies dormant inside of these rocks, and by setting their own melody, they are bringing the rocks to life and giving them a little drum beat that they've added to the scene. And that's kind of where...
Building that arrangement, right? That arrangement that stacks in this Discovery world.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this puzzle that we're seeing right now?
This is teaching the player to use the muse, getting these spirits to sing. This is one of our melody manipulators. So as you saw, the couple that Annette performed in Bohemian Rhapsody, we had others that we were exploring. This was something where you'd hold your hands out and move your head actually to set points along this curve, and you'd shape a melody. This is a
musical cactus.
Yep,
what else would you like us to
Why not?
musical cactus.
But here's the big transition moment where you flip the table over and it would go from this spirit desert world into this crazy lush environment with characters and interactions you'd seen along the way, as well as the melodies you created, the rhythms that you created following you. And this is probably the closest we got to what you're seeing now in the full build.
Yep. Yeah, there's a huge number of things in here that we've taken forward. The notion of playing songs within those discovery realms, and then bringing the music from those songs in. They would all be associated with a particular object. It would start singing like a fun song or Bohemian Rhapsody or other songs we've announced. And
Good, careful use of the song list that you might forget and say the wrong song again.
And at the same time, just allowing the player to explore these worlds. And one of the things we reacted to in playing this demo was just that some of the puzzle-type gameplay that was introduced was on the frustrating side. Kinect does a lot of amazing things. It's able to take your body and put that as an input device. But there's elements of it that can be frustrating at times. So there were some sort of cursor-based puzzles, some time-limited things. And as we kept iterating in those spaces, we really pushed towards a notion of letting the player be creative in those spaces and not having tight physical requirements for them within the exploration of the realms, and then worked to make our performance gameplay the place where we have rigorous detection and gameplay and scoring and multipliers and all that stuff.
Yeah. Right. This was the first time I think we tightened our conceptual framework to be this link between playing music, being creative with music, being performative, has the payoff of changing your world. And that really is probably the simplest way of expressing what we do in the game.
Well, there's no real success or failure. There's just having more or less control. So the more you succeed, the more you perform along with the music, the more you can shape the world and control the music. Yeah.
That's what we learned. When there's a right answer and sort of like, oh, the rocks have a specific rhythm that they're looking for, the player's just thinking about what is the right answer that I'm being asked for. When we give them more control and we say, now you can change the world, you can shape the world, their headspace becomes about actually like, what kind of sound do I want to make? And that's where we want them to be.
Which is what writing a song or producing a track is like. I mean, you go and you don't go, okay, what is the right drum sound? You say, well, what do I want this to sound like? What do I want the vocals to sound like, right?
We've also moved much more towards like a granularity of transformation. You saw in that video just one moment where the player is going to swoop their hands up and the entirety of the world changed in this magnificent way, and all these things that weren't there before are all of a sudden there. And the player doesn't feel much ownership at that point. You're sort of like, oh, well, I guess that's kind of amazing that happened. But right. Now, as you're playing songs and each one has a smaller impact on the realm, that the sum of all of that impact feels like something that is yours because you've added your own musical qualities to it, and you sort of decided how it's going to sound by which songs you've played and how you play with the instruments.
Yeah. So you saw the Shoal demo, and we previously shown a demo called The Press, which is a sort of a factory world with robots that are like steampunk R2-D2s that are making newspapers. But we actually are going to be revealing a new world this coming week. We're doing some behind closed doors demos of all of it, but we're actually going to do a quick little exclusive sneak peek just for you guys to see one thing that no one else has seen yet. And yeah, right? Now I will preface it with this quote from Walt Disney, which is, there are things in the music that the general public will not understand until they see things on the screen representing that music. Then they will feel the depth in the music, which is a really cool quote, but also it's just a screenshot of a really interactive music motion game, so it may be a little confusing. Like if you've just seen these trailers without someone playing them, it might have been a little confusing. So the next world we're introducing is a snowy forest scene, and we call it The Haven. And this is one of our characters in that scene. It's this crazy birch forest with shadows and light, and this is a sea monster, because, we had an underwater level you could have put a sea monster in, and then you put a sea monster in the middle of a forest.
We really like sea monsters.
You love sea monsters so much.
Can't get enough.
We don't understand the problem.
I know. No, it's great. I'm happy for it. So on Tuesday, there'll be a bunch of stories, people who had hands-on with that, and some video that'll be running, but we want to give you guys a quick sneak peek for taking your time and coming to see this. We're really, really excited for The Haven to be the next thing we're showing. We have one more quote from Walt up here, and this, I think, is a really nice summary of what it's felt like to be making this game, which is it's really stimulating to be able to put stuff out there that really people can feel more connection to the music and feel more immersed in the songs. And it's an entirely new field opened up for our medium. And instead of talking about film, we're really talking about video games, specifically music and motion video games, which I think this is a very different thing for. You guys have any things you want to offer in closing about the design of the game, where we've come, where we've gone, and then we'll open up for some questions and another announcement before I leave? No? You good? We said a lot of things, so maybe that's all we need to say. Whatever.
I mean, it's amazing. You guys will have a chance to play it at some point. I'm sorry it is not on the floor, but if anyone has had a chance to play it at D23 or any of those things, it's a really amazing experience. The ability of players to actually own the remixes that they're making within performance is super amazing. And like one of the moments that I had of just like knowing we were doing the right thing was when we first took the game to pre-E3, and Nick Chester was asking me, how can you get the performances that you did off of the game so I can listen to them on my iPod? And that notion of just like Nick feeling like he owned this thing and wanted to hear that song more and more was just a sign for me that like that type of gameplay was really headed to the right place. And then hashtag JazzClams, just hashtag
yeah, hashtag JazzClams. That's the social media hashtag.
Follow JazzClams on Twitter.
Follow JazzClams on Twitter. I own the JazzClams account. I think that's the thing, is trying to connect this heritage IP with the Sorcerer's Apprentice and Yen Sid and the workshop with completely new, inventive gameplay, and trying to have that connective tissue between the two. Yeah. Has been why this has been not a struggle, but a really interesting iterative process. We've come up with new things and taken what we've learned and left them behind. And big ups to Disney for letting us play and make things in the space and not killing it when it wasn't initially a first-person shooter.
And I would encourage you, if you see anyone from Disney, grab them by the hand and tell them that they should continue to make stuff like this.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And before we go to questions, if I can ask for just a round of applause for all of the team members that we had working on all this stuff for the past few years. It's been crazy for them.
They're not here because they're making the game.
How different is this than Dance Central or Rock Band? It's amazing to me to see the flexibility of our artists and musicians and
they're making Turtles. We weren't in Turtles in Dance Central, I don't think. It's a big game, but and there's about 120 people working sort of overtime on this game right now. So it's probably the most ambitious project we've ever taken on. We're really excited for you guys to see it, and hopefully you like what you saw today. And obviously it can be a little confusing. So there are microphones in both aisles. If you guys have any questions for our designers, we'd be happy to answer some questions. And then don't leave just yet, because there's a secret surprise in the panel. Even more stuff that you might get. I don't even know. What's up?
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on Forest Sea Monster Hero, the first-person musical shooter.
Yeah.
It looks great. So you guys have had a lot of dealings with rights holders on music over the years. Were there any extra challenges that came in when you went to people and said, hey, I don't want to just use your song, I want to mess around with it, remix it, play with it, and do all kinds of other cool stuff?
There was a really good meeting where I met with the top lawyer for music of Disney, and I said, I want to license music. He's like, oh, that's fine. This guy's an older gentleman. He said, well, I want to have the multi-tracks too. Okay.
Why?
Then I want to have players remix it. He was like, And I said, well, finally we want them to share that content online. He's like, there's no freaking way you're getting those rights.
Yeah. You've lost your minds. Have you met the music industry?
Yeah. I have to say, we've had a number of key people, a couple of folks at Harmonix, a couple of folks at Disney who have worked really hard together, and we spent about 3 to 6 months demoing to the music industry, taking it to them, trying to convince people that this wasn't us f***ing up their music, this was us allowing the people who love their music already to explore it in a new way and love it some more. And 3/4 of the music industry believe us, the other quarter don't.
But that's cool. We don't need them.
Okay, because that gave us
that's what DLC is for.
Millions of awesome tracks.
Yeah, buy the game and we can convince the last quarter. I mean, also, I think the thing is we've also shown them over time that we don't need an infinite number of songs on the disc, because each song is so replayable. You can play the songs dozens of times in your different remixes. So, we're only going to have 30+ songs on the disc, which might not sound like a lot, but that's hours and hours of gameplay. So having a few really smart people who get how progressive and cool this is just as good as having 80 people who don't even understand it at all. So we've been really fortunate to find.
Oh, the other thing I want to pimp out, we've got some classical music, and those
composers
are dead.
Yeah, they're dead. It's easy. Yeah, we have Night on Bald Mountain.
Licensing that was really easy.
Yeah, yes. We have Night on Bald Mountain from the original film, and we also have Vivaldi's Four Seasons, the Winter
movement.
Movement.
We went to Abbey Road in London. We recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra and
Small time.
orchestra from Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, and was conducted by Anon Zor. It was a pretty phenomenal experience. So the classical music you'll get to hear in the game is pretty top-notch too.
So we're gonna excellent question. We're gonna go over there. What's up?
Great. Everything looks beautiful so far.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And having Bohemian Rhapsody start, that was a great demo. And you said 30 plus songs on the disc. That's awesome. Do you plan on doing more expanded content beyond the disc? Like we can go
If you all buy the game, yes. Otherwise, no.
Otherwise, no.
I think it's pretty safe to say you hooked at least this audience.
Yeah. It's Harmonix, so we don't have a firm DLC plan yet, but obviously we have great content creators who are ready to spin up and good relationships with first parties to make more stuff happen. So we'll see. Good question. Over there.
Yeah, I was just curious if any points of inspiration, either visually or whatever, came from the underappreciated sequel, Fantasia 2000.
Underappreciated sequel?
Yeah.
I love that film.
Oh, okay. Just, it wasn't mentioned. So.
We did not mention it, but it's
we use
awesome.
Fantasia kind of collectively to refer to a whole bunch of content. Historically, there is the original film, there's 2000, there is an unmade third film, allegedly, which I think it's on Wikipedia, so I can call it Musicana in front of you.
Jeez, okay. Dropping bombs on this panel.
Dishing the dirt, telling the secrets. There's about, if you ever want to scour the sort of interweb to find out, there's probably about half a dozen shorts that have been released by Disney on various DVDs and festivals over the last 20 years that are part of that project. So we looked at everything, and it wasn't for us about taking any particular sequence and bringing it into this and reimagining it. It was about taking Walt's ideas of being able to tell the story of music on screen and create new content for that. So short answer is there's nothing explicit about any film, but there's lots of nods to all of the films.
Totally.
Yeah.
Good question. Yes, over there.
I was wondering, because you're doing it for the Kinect, but I've noticed a lot of other systems can kind of do what you're looking for. I mean, without like motion controls, of course.
Without motion controls?
Yeah, like with a mouse, you could direct it, or...
Well, so you couldn't have Z-space with the mouse, right? You couldn't reach into the screen, and that's one of the important parts. I mean, you could talk about what input devices and what you think about it. It's not impossible, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible. Drake likes to say that we're not exclusive.
Open relationship.
I think it's about for us realizing the mechanics and the platforms that we're going to ship on, and then the future's wide and bright, and all sorts of different things can happen there. But really, we want to give people the physical feeling of interacting with music. Right. It's something that's never been done before, and the feeling that you get when you're gesturing to the music and you're moving in time and then you're creating a new aspect to the music and mixing that right in. There's an aspect of the physicality that is so impactful that I would be sad to have it minimized.
Right. So we designed the games for the input device too. We want to make the best game for it. What?
Is there anyone from Microsoft in the audience?
Microsoft employees, raise your hands. Yeah. Sort of, some.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because we're not actually a Microsoft exclusive.
No, we're not.
To be very clear.
So stay tuned. Maybe there'll be some stuff to say soon.
But look, Matt really nailed it. Music and motion go together, and that's what we're trying to enable. And we'd be happy to do that for anyone who will work with us.
Let's walk out of this minefield of a question. I don't want to be here anymore. Next question.
All right, everything looks great.
Thanks.
I was wondering, did you ever have any difficulty? I know you've got the classical world creation that you've seascape, and then you've got the contemporary pop songs within that seascape. And as a kind of aside, I noticed in your tech demo that there was a scene where there was like Prince Naveen from Princess and the Frog. Did you ever feel any pressure from the Disney higher-ups to put anything explicitly Disney in there?
In fact, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
There was a desire to make this not a continuation of 2000 or the original film. It was a desire to make something that was as new and as unique from a visual perspective, character perspective, as any one of those films were, and that was like the thrust from the very beginning. Outside of a desire to really go back to some of the iconic visuals of Sorcerer's Apprentice and use that as our base.
Two folks who are not at Disney right now that were instrumental in supporting me getting this project greenlit, and that is Alex Seropian and Warren Spector, who were the people that I worked with at the time to get this project through the Disney machine?
Well, and so it's also not, I mean, it's a really good question, because in addition to wanting to create new things with sort of that one heritage piece that ties it all together to the film of Sorcerer's Apprentice, there's also, it's not Disney Infinity, right, which is an amazing game, but it's about remixing the music and the visuals, but not about remixing all of Disney culture. And that was a pretty, not explicit mandate, like in a bad way, but a pretty good solid directional point from Disney.
We were given a good umbrella.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, over there.
Oh, my turn.
Yes, alternating.
One of my best memories as a kid was, of course, being babysat by my television and watching Fantasia. And all of you who've seen the original Fantasia, that Nutcracker piece of music with the dancing mushrooms, spinning around in front of that TV, trying to dance like a mushroom. Yeah. And I saw that in your earlier versions, you had that fairy dancing around.
Yep.
And I watched your live demo, and it was very Sorcerer's Apprentice movements. Is the fairy going to get in there so my kids can dance in front of the television?
Well, first of all, your kids are definitely going to dance in front of the television if the fairy's there or not. Because this game's going to be really fun, even without that connective tissue. But, there'll be some nice call-outs to the film for people who are fans, but I think the idea is we're going to be introducing Fantasia to a really big audience, some of whom have no idea what people in this room who saw Fantasia and loved it might also still have no idea what you're talking about, because there's only bits and pieces that kind of stick in your craw for, the decades since you may have seen it last. So I think it's a really good point.
They were Russian dancing mushrooms.
I know, man. They're so good. They're so good.
I think it's dancing mushrooms.
It is also important to note that that Annette has her own amazing way of performing that is very evocative of Mickey on the Cliff. But having watched hundreds of people play the game, I've seen everyone do anything from disco dancing with full-on spins to really minimal, like they're
robots.
in Minority Report
I've seen
or something.
I've seen a 12-year-old boy doing kung fu to this game, and that's actually true.
So we are out of time. We're going to hang around. We'll answer your questions. Just come up and talk to us, or we'll go out in the hallway so they can load the next panel in. But thank you guys for coming. So under some of your seats, is this true? Yes, Tara? Under some of your seats, some of you have Sorcerer Mickey figurines for Disney Infinity, which are exclusive until January. We only got a couple from Johnny Vignacchi, who's the executive producer there. They're really awesome, so if you have one, congratulations. Otherwise, you all got hats and pins, which is also cool. But please come up and hang out with us in the hallway. Come check us out. We're in a booth on the floor. Come ask us questions. You'll get some free DLC codes from Harmonix. And thank you guys so much for taking your time. Thanks to our PR team putting together, Annette for making the deck, these guys for being on the panel, and the Enforcers for running a great show. Have a great PAX, everybody. See you later.